Are you prepared to find out what waits beyond reality? It's time to plunge into the abyss from which there is no return. In the silence broken only by your own heartbeat, darkness and horrors capable of shocking even the bravest lie in wait. Are you ready to face what hides in the shadows? What dark force pierces the silence? And what happens when every rustle becomes a cry of despair? Can you withstand the intense fear that becomes palpable and overwhelming? What if something around the corner can shatter your reality? In this world, every step brings you closer to the unknown horror, and every breath is a harbinger of unimaginable evil. Hold on tight and don't look away. The darkness will consume you.
In the small, unassuming town of Hollow Creek, a group of friends shared an insatiable curiosity for the arcane and the unknown. The tight-knit circle comprised 4 distinct personalities: Liam, the adventurous skeptic Jenna, the empathetic dreamer Marcus, the pragmatic realist, and Tiffany, the thrill-seeking instigator. They were drawn together by a shared fascination with the supernatural, often spending long nights discussing urban legends and ghost stories. But one fateful evening would push their intrigue to dangerous new heights. It all began when Tiffany stumbled upon an ancient tome in the dusty corner of an old bookstore, its pages yellowed and frayed. The book spoke of a long-forgotten ritual, a way to open a gateway to another dimension where entities lurked beyond the veil of reality. Each member of the group felt a magnetic pull towards the prospect of summoning something from beyond, their imaginations ignited by the promise of the unknown. What started as a playful banter soon evolved into a reckless challenge, and they unanimously decided to perform the ritual under the cover of darkness, far from prying eyes. As they gathered in the woods behind Liam's house, an eerie mist enveloped the trees, casting shadows that danced ominously in the flickering light of their candles. The atmosphere thickened with anticipation, and an unsettling chill ran down their spines. Each friend carried their own apprehensions, masked by bravado and excitement. Liam, ever the skeptic, dismissed the warnings in the book as mere superstition, while Jenna clutched her amulet, whispering silent prayers to protect them. Marcus, the voice of reason, hesitated, but was ultimately swayed by the thrill of the unknown, while Tiffany reveled in the chaos, her laughter echoing through the trees. The ritual began with a circle drawn in salt, inscribed with cryptic symbols that promised power and connection to the astral plane. They recited the incantation, voices trembling as the words poured forth, each syllable laced with a mix of fear and exhilaration. As the final words exited their lips, the air thickened, and an unnatural silence fell over the forest. The candles flickered violently, casting grotesque shadows that twisted and turned, as if alive. What they had done was irreversible. Little did they know, they had summoned not just any entity, but a sinister clown, a creature of nightmares, born from their deepest fears. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and a chilling laughter echoed through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. The astral clown, with its grotesque visage and twisted grin, would soon begin its horrific show, turning their fears into a reality far darker than they could have ever imagined. In that moment, the line between reality and nightmare blurred, and the friends became unwilling participants in a game that would claim their souls. As the final syllable of the incantation lingered in the air, an unsettling energy surged through the clearing. The friends stood frozen, their hearts pounding in their chests, each grappling with the weight of their actions. The mist thickened, swirling around their legs like ghostly tendrils. For a fleeting moment, nothing happened, and they exchanged nervous glances, relief washing over them. Perhaps they had been foolish, but nothing had emerged. Then, from the depths of the shadows, a figure began to take shape. At first, it appeared innocuous, a silhouette that danced playfully in the flickering candlelight. They squinted, trying to discern the form. Laughter, high-pitched and jarring, cut through the silence, and as it grew louder, the figure morphed into a colorful clown, complete with a red nose and oversized shoes. Its whimsical demeanor seemed harmless, a caricature of joy rather than the horror they had anticipated. "Welcome to the show," the clown exclaimed, its voice a strange blend of mirth and mockery. It performed a series of silly gestures, juggling non-existent balls and spinning in circles, while the friends hesitantly chuckled, caught off guard by the clown's apparent playfulness. Jenna felt a fleeting sense of comfort wash over her. Perhaps this was just a trick of the mind, a manifestation of their collective imagination. But as the seconds passed, the atmosphere shifted. The laughter grew louder, more manic, and the colors of the clown's costume began to bleed into dark, menacing shades. Liam's skepticism faltered as he noticed the way the clown's eyes glinted with an unsettling hunger. It was as if the jovial facade was merely a mask, hiding the true nature of the entity lurking beneath. "Don't you want to play?" the clown asked, its grin stretching unnaturally wide, revealing sharp teeth that glinted like silver. The words were laced with an underlying threat, sending a chill racing down Marcus's spine. Tiffany's laughter faltered, replaced by a nervous fidget as the playful antics turned into grotesque mimicry of their fears. Suddenly, the ground beneath them trembled once more, and dark tendrils of shadow began to extend from the clown, coiling around the friends' feet like creeping vines. Panic surged within them as they realized the ritual had not ended, it had only just begun. The clown's laughter twisted into a sinister melody, wrapping around their minds, each note a reminder of their darkest secrets and insecurities. "What's wrong? You look scared," it taunted, its voice dripping with malice. The friends exchanged horrified glances as they felt their fears bubbling to the surface, manifesting into vivid hallucinations that played out before their eyes. Liam saw himself trapped in a cage of his own making. Jenna faced the loss of her loved ones. Marcus confronted his failures, and Tiffany was engulfed by a swirling void of silence. The clown danced among them, reveling in their torment, and with each twisted show of joy, it pulled them deeper into a nightmare. The clarity of its true nature was dawning on them, the playful facade peeling away to reveal a horrific truth. They had not merely summoned a clown, they had unleashed a tormentor that thrived on their fears, a malevolent entity intent on claiming their souls as part of its ghastly performance. As the laughter echoed through the woods, the friends stood paralyzed, the shadows closing in around them, realizing that the true terror of the Astral Clown Show was only just beginning. The clown's laughter resonated through the air, morphing into a cacophony that clawed at the edges of their sanity. "Welcome, welcome," it crooned, its voice a warped echo of glee, "to the most exhilarating show on Earth." As it spun in a grotesque pirouette, the shadows around them deepened, warping the familiar forest into an alien landscape of dread. Liam, Jenna, Marcus, and Tiffany stood shoulder to shoulder, yet the distance between them felt insurmountable. The clown flicked its wrist, and the air crackled with a palpable energy, a sinister invitation that sent chills coursing through their veins. "Let's see what makes each of you tick," it sang, its eyes gleaming with malevolence. The words hung heavy in the air, a promise of horrors yet to come. With a snap of its fingers, the clown summoned a swirling fog that enveloped Marcus first. He staggered back as visions of his past failures materialized, each one a poignant reminder of how he had fallen short, how he had let down everyone who had ever believed in him. Figures from his past emerged, disappointed friends, a father shaking his head in disapproval, their faces contorted in anguish as they pointed accusingly. "You could have been more," they chorused, their voices blending into a dissonant melody that pierced through Marcus's resolve. Jenna, witnessing her friend's suffering, felt her heart race. "Marcus, fight it," she cried, but her words were swallowed by the clown's sinister laughter. Suddenly, shadows coiled around her, and she was thrust into a chilling dreamscape where she stood alone in a darkened room. The ghostly figures of her beloved family members, now faded and gray, reached out to her, their faces frozen in expressions of sorrow. "You abandoned us," they whispered, their voices echoing in her mind like an unending lament. She felt the weight of their loss, the crushing reality of her fears coming to life, and her breath quickened as she realized she couldn't save them from the darkness. Tiffany, fueled by adrenaline and defiance, attempted to rally her friends. "We can fight this! We're stronger together!" But as she spoke, the clown turned its gaze upon her, a wicked grin spreading across its painted face. "Oh, but sweet Tiffany, this is your show too!" With a flick of its wrist, the shadows twisted around her, conjuring a void that swallowed her voice. She felt the suffocating silence engulf her, a fear of isolation that clawed at her mind. The vibrant spirit that once drove her now trembled in the face of the unending darkness. Liam, the skeptic, stood frozen, watching his friends unravel. The clown approached him with a theatrical flourish, its eyes shimmering with a malevolent gleam. "And you, dear skeptic, are you not curious about what lies beneath your bravado?" With a snap of its fingers, a mirror appeared, reflecting not his image, but his deepest insecurities, a version of himself trapped in mediocrity, lost in a life devoid of adventure, haunted by the choices he hadn't made. The reflection mocked him, taunting him with flashes of the life he could have lived, moments of courage he had squandered. As the show unfolded, the friends found themselves ensnared in a web of illusions spun by the clown, their trust in one another beginning to fray. Each manifestation of fear acted as a wedge, driving them deeper into isolation. The clown danced around them, its laughter a cruel symphony that heightened their despair. "Look at them," it jeered, pointing at their torment. "They're too busy running from their fears to save each other." The shadows around them thickened, a living entity that pulsed with their anguish. Each friend's mind became a battleground as the clown twisted their memories and insecurities into a grotesque performance. The more they struggled, the stronger the clown's hold became, feeding off their despair, their panic, and their escalating distrust. "Do you see how easily they turn on each other?" The clown taunted, its grin widening as it reveled in the chaos. "What's a show without a little drama?" Jenna, gasping for air, reached out to Marcus, but he was lost in his own torment, his eyes vacant as he battled his demons. "I'm sorry," he whispered, the weight of his failures shackling him further into despair. The clown's laughter echoed in the distance, a haunting reminder that they were trapped in a nightmarish game, a performance that would not end until it claimed what it desired their very souls. As the dark tendrils of fear wrapped tighter around them, a singular truth began to dawn. They were not just spectators in this horrific show, they were the main act, and the clown reveled in their suffering, eager to see how far they would fall before the final bow. The clown's laughter morphed into a sinister melody, reverberating through the air as it twisted and contorted, drawing the friends deeper into their psychological hell. The atmosphere thickened, shadows lengthening and warping around them, bending reality to the clown's will. The friends gripped each other's arms tightly, but the bond they once shared felt like a fragile thread, fraying under the strain of their individual nightmares. Liam was the first to break free from the confines of the clown's influence, but only to be thrust into a vivid nightmare of his own. The scene around him transformed into a dimly lit theater, empty and echoing with silence. He stood alone on a stage, the spotlight illuminating him while the audience remained shrouded in darkness. The clown appeared in the front row, its eyes glinting with anticipation. "Perform for us, Liam." It beckoned, and suddenly he felt the weight of expectations crushing down upon him. He could hear whispers from the void, mocking him, reminding him of every time he had played it safe, every opportunity he had squandered. "You're nothing without your bravado," they jeered, and he crumbled under their scrutiny. Meanwhile, Jenna's world twisted into an echo of her past. She found herself in a sterile hospital room, the sterile scent of antiseptic filling her lungs. Her loved ones lay motionless on gurneys, their faces pallid and ghostly. "You could have saved us," they murmured, and her heart ached with guilt. The shadows twisted around her, morphing into ghostly hands that reached for her, desperate for salvation she could never provide. "Please, don't leave us," they begged, their voices fading into a haunting chorus. The clown stood at the foot of the bed, its grin wide and mocking, feeding off her despair. Tiffany was not spared from the clown's malevolence. She found herself in an endless carnival, the vibrant colors now smeared with a sense of foreboding. Laughter erupted from every corner, but it was hollow and eerie. Each booth promised an exhilarating thrill, but as she approached, the rides transformed into nightmarish behemoths, each representing her fear of losing control. The clown appeared beside her, its voice a twisted lullaby. "You crave excitement, don't you? But what if the thrill becomes your undoing?" It gestured towards a Ferris wheel that spiraled into an abyss, and she felt her heart race with panic. The ride beckoned her, a cruel reminder of her reckless nature, and she fought against the urge to climb aboard. Marcus, lost in his own mind, was plunged into a desolate landscape, a barren wasteland, where echoes of his past failures haunted him. Each step he took was met with the ghostly figures of those he had disappointed, their eyes hollow with accusation. "You're a failure, Marcus," they whispered, their voices merging with the laughter of the clown which echoed in the distance. "You'll never escape your past." He felt the ground tremble beneath him, and the air thickened with a suffocating dread. The clown drifted closer, its fingers curling around his thoughts, drowning him in a sea of self-doubt. Desperate to escape, the friends attempted to reach each other, but the shadows that bound them grew thicker, more suffocating. The clown's laughter echoed around them, a cacophony that distorted their pleas. "You think you can escape this show?" it taunted, reveling in their torment. "You are the stars, and I am the master of ceremonies." As they struggled against the darkness, fear began to morph into anger. Liam, awakening to the reality of their situation, shouted, "This isn't real! We have to fight together!" His voice broke through the shadows momentarily, igniting a flicker of hope in Jenna, Marcus, and Tiffany. They locked eyes, their expressions a mix of fear and determination. But the clown, sensing their resistance, unleashed a torrent of illusions that threatened to engulf them. "You cannot escape what you truly are," it screeched, the shadows swirling like a tempest. Each friend was forced to confront the essence of their fears, their deepest insecurities clawing at the surface. The air crackled with the energy of their anguish, and the clown danced amidst the chaos, its laughter a cruel reminder of the game they were trapped in. In that moment of despair, a realization dawned upon them. Their connection was their only weapon against the clown's malevolence. They mustered their courage, reaching out through the shadows. "We're stronger together," Jenna cried, her voice resonating with an energy that pushed back against the encroaching darkness. As the shadows writhed in protest, the friends formed a circle, hands clasped tightly. They focused on their shared memories, the laughter, the joy, and the bonds that had brought them together. The clown recoiled, its laughter faltering as their unity began to dissolve the fabric of its nightmarish reality. "No! This isn't how the show ends!" it shrieked, rage boiling over. But the friends would not yield. With each heartbeat, they pushed against the darkness, their voices intertwining in a chant that resonated with defiance. "We are not your puppets. We are not your fears." The shadows began to wane, the power of their connection illuminating the darkness. The clown's grip weakened, its form flickering as it fought to maintain control over the chaotic realm they had stumbled into. As the darkness began to recede, the friends felt a surge of hope. Perhaps they could escape this nightmare and reclaim their lives from the clutches of the clown. But the entity would not go quietly, and as the shadows thinned, the clown's laughter erupted into a furious howl, a sound that reverberated through their very souls. The show was far from over. The clown's laughter crescendoed into a chilling symphony of chaos, reverberating through the twisted landscape as shadows clawed at the edges of their minds. The friends stood together, their hands clasped tightly, hearts racing, as the sinister entity loomed closer, its painted smile now a grotesque mask of malice. "You think this little display of camaraderie will save you?" It jeered, voice dripping with contempt. "This is merely the intermission." With a flick of its wrist, the clown conjured a swirling vortex of darkness that erupted from the ground, sending tendrils snaking towards each friend, wrapping around their limbs like iron chains. Panic surged through them, but they fought against the growing despair, drawing strength from their shared resolve. "We won't let you take us," Marcus shouted, desperation fueling his voice. The clown, unfazed, leaned closer, its eyes glinting with a predatory gleam. "Ah, but you don't understand. I thrive on fear, and your desperation is a feast I cannot resist." With another snap, the shadows transformed, materializing into excruciating manifestations of their darkest fears. Jenna was engulfed by a harrowing vision. She found herself standing in a graveyard, surrounded by tombstones bearing the names of her loved ones. The air grew heavy with the scent of decay and sorrow. "You let them die," echoed the voices of those she held dear. "You were too weak to save us." The shadows morphed into ghostly figures, their hollow eyes filled with accusation, closing in around her. "You're a coward!" they screamed, their voices twisting into a cacophony of grief that threatened to swallow her whole. Meanwhile, Marcus was ensnared in a relentless cycle of failure. He stood in a dimly lit office, surrounded by piles of paperwork that seemed to multiply endlessly. Each document bore reminders of his shortcomings, the job he never pursued, the friendships he let slip away. The room began to collapse around him as figures emerged from the shadows, each one a reflection of his past failures. "You're worthless," they hissed, their voices echoing through the suffocating air. "You'll always be a disappointment." Tiffany, fighting against her own fears, was thrust into a carnival of horrors. The colorful tents morphed into twisted funhouses, reflections of her reckless pursuits, each ride a representation of her desire for thrill. She stumbled through a maze of mirrors, each reflection distorting her image, revealing a version of herself consumed by chaos and isolation. "You'll never find true freedom," the clown taunted, its laughter a chilling reminder of her vulnerabilities. "You're destined to be alone." As the manifestations of dread converged around them, Liam felt the weight of his own fears manifesting into a nightmarish spectacle. He stood on a stage, spotlight blazing down as the audience, a sea of shadowy figures, watched in silence. The clown emerged from the crowd, its grin widening as it pointed at him. "Show us what you're made of, skeptic," it taunted, the mocking laughter echoing in his ears. "Prove that you're more than just a coward hiding behind a mask of skepticism." In that moment, Liam realized the truth. The clown fed on their isolation, their despair, their doubts. But as he glanced at his friends, their faces twisted in agony, yet united in defiance, a spark ignited within him. "We're not alone," he shouted, his voice cutting through the darkness. "We have each other." With newfound determination, the friends focused on their bond, forging a mental tether that pushed back against the suffocating shadows. "We are not defined by our fears," Jenna cried, her voice resonating with strength. "We are defined by our choices." The clown recoiled, its laughter faltering as the shadows began to dissipate, the manifestations of their fears losing their grip. "No, you cannot escape," it screeched, anger twisting its features into a mask of rage. But the friends pressed on, their resolve unyielding. "Together," Marcus shouted, and as their voices melded into a powerful chant, the shadows around them began to fracture, splintering like glass. The clown writhed in fury, its form flickering as it struggled to maintain its grasp on their minds. "Your show is over," Tiffany declared, her voice ringing with defiance. The shadows recoiled, and with a final surge of energy, the friends unleashed a wave of light that shattered the darkness, banishing the clown's control. The entity howled in rage as it was pulled back into the void from which it came, its laughter morphing into a desperate scream that echoed through the night. As the shadows receded, the clearing transformed back into the familiar woods, the air lighter, the oppressive weight lifted. The friends stood together, breathless and shaken, but united. They had faced their fears, battled the sinister clown, and emerged victorious together. Yet, a lingering question remained. Had they truly defeated it? Or was the clown merely biding its time, waiting for another opportunity to claim their souls? In the aftermath of their harrowing encounter with the sinister clown, the friends stood amidst the quiet woods, a profound silence enveloping them. The oppressive shadows that had once threatened to consume them were gone, replaced by the soft rustling of leaves and the gentle sigh of the night air. They exchanged weary glances, each still reeling from the psychological torment they had endured. Though they had managed to banish the clown back to its dimension, the emotional scars lingered, a testament to the horrors they had confronted. Liam, still catching his breath, broke the silence. Did we really do it? Is it over? His voice trembled, uncertainty threading through his words. The others nodded, though their eyes reflected a shared unease. They had escaped, yes, but the clown's laughter echoed in their minds, a haunting reminder that their fears had been laid bare. As they made their way back home, the moon hung low in the sky, casting an ethereal glow across the path. Each step felt heavy, the weight of what they had experienced hanging over them like a dark cloud. Jenna, glancing at her friends, felt a pang of sadness as she realized that their bond had been irrevocably altered. "Are we still us?" she asked softly, her voice breaking the stillness. "I hope so," Marcus replied, his brow furrowed in contemplation. "But we have to acknowledge what we've been through. We can't pretend it didn't happen." Tiffany, ever the instigator, offered a half-hearted smile. "Well, we survived the Astral Clown Show, right? That has to count for something." But her bravado was thin, and they all sensed the underlying tension. Each friend carried a fragment of the clown's influence, shadows of doubt and fear that clung to their thoughts, waiting for a moment of weakness to resurface. Just as they reached the edge of the woods, an unsettling chill swept through the air. The friends paused, exchanging confused looks. "Did you feel that?" Liam asked, a sense of dread pooling in his stomach. Before anyone could respond, a flicker of movement caught Jenna's eye. At the periphery of their vision, a figure stood among the trees, a silhouette that seemed all too familiar. It was the clown, its painted face illuminated by the moonlight, a chilling smile stretching across its twisted features. "Did you think I was gone for good?" It taunted, the laughter echoing through the night air. In that moment, the friends realized that their struggle was far from over. The clown's presence loomed large, a reminder that while they had battled their fears, the true fight against their darkest selves was just beginning. As they turned to face the nightmarish specter once more, a renewed sense of determination surged within them. They would not be defined by their fears, they would confront the clown together, ready to reclaim their lives and their friendship in the face of this unrelenting darkness. The clown's grin widened, and with a flick of its wrist, it beckoned them back into the shadows. "Let's see how well you really know each other." The friends braced themselves, knowing that the real show was about to begin again. As dawn broke over Hollow Creek, a fragile stillness enveloped the town, masking the horrors that had transpired in the woods. The friends, forever altered by their encounter with the sinister clown, returned to their lives with a lingering sense of dread. They had defeated it, or so they thought. Yet, whispers of its laughter haunted their dreams, a chilling reminder that the entity they had summoned was not easily vanquished. In the days that followed, they couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Shadows seemed to stretch longer, the air grew heavier, and the mundane moments of their lives were tainted by an unshakable anxiety. They avoided discussing the ritual, but a silent agreement hung in the air. They had opened a door that could never truly be closed. Months passed, and the friends began to drift apart, each haunted by their own fears, the clown's influence festering in the corners of their minds. Then, one fateful evening, Tiffany stumbled across a new gathering, a group drawn by the allure of the arcane and the unknown. As she whispered the words of a long-lost incantation, a flicker of recognition ignited in her eyes. Unbeknownst to her, the clown watched from the astral plane, eager for its next act, waiting for the moment someone would dare to summon it again. The stage was set, and the horror was far from over. As the final draft of Astral Clown Show takes shape, it is crucial to conduct a thorough review of the entire narrative to ensure it meets the required length of at least 30,000 characters, excluding spaces and paragraphs. This meticulous examination should not only focus on word count, but also on the consistency of the plot, the development of characters, and the atmospheric tension that underscores the story's psychological horror. In reviewing the plot, it is essential to trace the arcs of each character: Liam, Jenna, Marcus, and Tiffany, ensuring their motivations and fears are clearly articulated and resonate throughout the narrative. Their initial curiosity about the supernatural should evolve into a deep-seated terror, reflecting their unique vulnerabilities when confronted by the clown. This progression can be enhanced by adding vivid descriptions and emotional depth, allowing readers to feel the weight of each character's struggle against their fears. Moreover, as the clown's powers are a central element of the story, it is vital to maintain an air of mystery surrounding its abilities until the climax. Foreshadowing subtle hints of its sinister nature throughout the earlier chapters will build tension and anticipation, keeping readers engaged without revealing too much too soon. This can be achieved through cleverly placed dialogue, brief encounters, or eerie occurrences that hint at the clown's true malevolence. Additionally, incorporating unexpected plot twists can further deepen the narrative's impact. Perhaps an earlier seemingly innocuous event could reveal hidden significance, or a character's hidden depth could come to light at a critical moment. These elements will not only enrich the story, but also provide a more rewarding experience for the reader. Lastly, ensuring a smooth flow between sections is essential to maintain immersion. Each scene should transition seamlessly into the next, building upon the established horror elements while keeping the reader captivated. This can be achieved by crafting compelling cliffhangers or thought-provoking reflections that propel the story forward. By addressing these key aspects during the final review and editing process, Astral Clown Show can transform into a gripping tale that effectively conveys the terror of the unknown and the darkness that lurks within us all.